Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Catch&Do session dedicated to clean energy and batteries. My name is Thomas Shamyalira, and I am an innovation ecosystem designer at Morpho. And if you haven't guessed it, I'll be your host for today's session. With me, we have Philipp Rosengarten, who's on screen that you can see, but I'll introduce him in a bit. If this is your first time, the Catch&Do Tank by Morpho is a series of inspiring sessions which invite the audience to shape its mind on key topics. With these sessions, we aim at addressing relevant topics of today and tomorrow while unpackaging buzzwords and exploring what they really mean. A few house rules is that this webinar will be recorded and it will be sent to you. It's an interactive webinar, and we encourage you to join in the discussion by using the chat box in the panel on the right of your screen. The panel is on your screen as you see. A bit later, we can show you. Before introducing our speaker, I would like to tell you more about Morpho. Morpho is the trusted partner for corporate innovation. Organizations work with us to open and access new ecosystems, detect new market opportunities, and activate collaborations and investments in new technologies, new business models, and new ventures. We operate tailor-made and human-centered open innovation from R&D to investment and even M&A. As experts in deep tech and new business models for positive impact, we connect the leaders of the next innovation wave. That being said, it is by no coincidence that we are with our speaker today. Today is the first episode of a series dedicated to understanding how new business models can help us achieve energy transition. And as such, we are joined by Philipp Rosengarten, CEO and founder of Clean Energy Global. Hi, Philipp.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Are you excited?
Thanks for the invite. Excitement will come when it will come later.
Great. Well, Philipp, we all know the big elephant in the room is the topic of energy and finding ways to successfully achieve energy transition. A complicated topic, but anyways, energy transition can be defined as the global energy sector's shift from fossil-based systems of producing and consuming, so systems like oil, natural gas, coal, etc., and shifting that to renewable sources like wind and solar. In today's context, we are faced with a plethora of challenges, including climate change, obstacles in accelerating energy transition, the side effects of the war in Ukraine, and concrete long-term solutions to cover our energy needs. You, however, have a solution that you're going to tell us about. So, Philipp, we're going to find out a bit more about you. But before that, we want to know what keeps you up at night. And the audience, I'm going to ask you the question, what keeps Philipp up at night? What you'll see on your screen is the question popping up now. And you have the choice of either of the possibility that the German and European automotive market
is failing.
Just one question. Can you see the full question on the screen?
No, it's just it's not. I would say it's not successful.
Okay. Anyways, the questions are the fear that the energy transition is failing, the possibility that the German and European automotive industry might lose out, not enough investment revenues coming into the business, or not having enough champagne at the next investor event. What keeps Philipp Rosengarten up at night? We have a few answers, and I will share them with you. I'll just give you all a few more seconds to put in your votes. And then, Philipp, you can give us a bit more information.
Now, or do we wait?
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and close. So, Philipp, this is what people have to say about what keeps you up at night. Most people believe that the fear that what keeps you up at night is the fear that the energy transition is failing. What do you have to say about that?
That's exactly right, because it is just the fear that the current energy transition is not efficient enough and too expensive for the most people. So that's the real reason. And of course, you have the mineral oil industry and co, which is of course using any excuse to extend their business.
Because of course they have their business and they must continue, and there are a lot of
and they are quite well. Sorry, and just to they had massive profits last year, and it's already the first people are thinking of extending their traditional business. And I think the most important step is to enclose the old industry as well, and with them together tackle the energy transition.
Okay. Then let's move on. I'm gonna hide the poll now, and we're gonna really go into all about Clean Energy Global, all about you, and let's go. Philipp, you are passionate about electrical vehicles and batteries, and you've been working on this topic for a very long time. You are convinced that the only way the automotive industry can successfully make the turn to e-mobility is through smart swappable battery modules and battery as a service. Tell us about Clean Energy Global, and why did you start Clean Energy Global?
Yes, okay. So it all started in 2015 when I was going on the German motorway, so no top speed limit, with 250 with the Tesla Model S, 210, and we didn't go faster then. And I was flashing away a BMW and a Porsche, and then I suddenly saw the range was going from 500 kilometers at this high speed to 200 kilometers. And I thought this will not work in Germany, because usually you want, if you buy a expensive car, you want to drive fast, because the Autobahn is like a time machine. You start too late and you arrive too early, because you can speed up, especially if you have a fast car. And so it started. I was lying under a Tesla, measuring the battery in a shop, in a Tesla model. And since then, I decided it's not possible for Germany, number one, to have this charging only by cable, and number two, to have one big battery. You have to make small modules which are smart and scalable in order to supply them to your very small vehicles and the very big vehicles. So small vehicles, you have only a few packs, and the big vehicles have many packs. And so this was the start.
Okay. Would you say that you had environmental considerations as well within your thinking?
Yes, I'm dealing with electric mobility for 35 years. And so it was completely different. And I think the real breakthrough was really the Tesla Model S, showing that it is possible to have the high speed to bring e-mobility into premium sector. And this is quite an impressive achievement. Of course, we Germans helped as well, Daimler especially. And this is quite important to see that the government action, and of course the urgent pressure of having this increasing temperature, which is linked to CO2 increase, and of course to solve this problem, number one. And number two, you have to say that exhaust gas is is cancerogenic, so it's not really very healthy for you. So I think it's a great way in the right direction. But as opposed to Tesla, I think it's better to include the players in the market and not have something, have a different company which tries to be disruptive and destroys all other players, because we'll have a lot of enemies then.
What you just said at the end there is interesting, and we're gonna, just to let you know, the audience, we're going to expand a bit further on that. That you're not really working to exclude people, you're working to create a shift, if I can say that. But all right, with this session, we want to know how new business models can help us achieve energy transition. So my first question to the audience first, and then to you, Philip, is what are the main challenges faced by energy transition today? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch another poll, and here are your options: cost of storage, oil and gas lobbies, current unique selling propositions that are not sufficient, or fossil-based fuels in use that are currently in use are still very efficient. So you have some time to answer the question as the audience, and then we'll discuss it together, Philip. But what are the main obstacles preventing energy transition? And for those that aren't aware, in the chat box, a summary of what we're saying is being posted as we go along, kind of like a live tweet, if you like. So while listening, if there's anything that you didn't catch, you can always go into the chat box to see what's been said. But okay, we have some really interesting answers regarding the poll on the screen. And I'll give you a few more seconds to answer before we can discuss them. Okay, I'm closing the poll in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and close. Let's take a look at the results. Okay, it is pretty tight somewhat, but anyways, fossil-based fuels in use remain very efficient is what most people believe, okay, as the main obstacle preventing energy transition. What do you think, Philip? What do you think about what's been said, and what's your opinion?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, really. You know, they are efficient, yes, of course. However, we have the European government and our other governments around the world decide on cut-off dates. And but this is only, that's important, it's only for new vehicles sold. It doesn't mean that the people can use their old vehicles, continue to use them. And I think that's a big problem we have, yes. And especially for long distance, they are very efficient in terms of time efficiency, cost as well, we have seen. And so I think the outcome is, you know, it's surprising that it's so strong, and it's true. But on the other hand, we know it's going to be different in the future with new cars, at least. And so that's why, for me, is the number 2, the cost of storage is a real problem, because especially everybody said it would go down, and now we have a spike in cost of storage because of the lithium ore prices went up by factor 10 last year, which is not good news. On the other hand, we now see a lot of regional push to mine lithium, so which is good. And so it's a surprise for me. It's a surprising outcome. Yeah.
Okay, surprising. Perhaps maybe it's a question of scope as well. Perhaps it's relevant if you look globally in terms of the whole world, compared to looking at Europe. Maybe that's where it comes from.
Yep. Good.
But hey, thank you everyone for participating in the poll. It's always interesting to have your point of view when it comes to pressing questions such as these. But Philip, you actually preempted my next question regarding the cost of storage. Regarding storing energy from fossil fuels. But anyways, could you tell us, what does the new business model battery as a service mean, and how does it work?
Okay, I think there are 2 important pillars. Battery as a service is number 1 is that you make the big batteries, which normally consist, or so far consist, of small modules. You modularize that and make it flexible. With us, we also say you have to make them smart as well. So every battery module has to have an Internet of Things, IoT module gateway, where you always know in what condition the pieces are, the modules are, where they are, and if anything harmful like fire or water or something like this is, is sort of ruining their health or potentially ruining their health. And on the other hand, it makes it much easier if you rent out batteries, these modules on demand. So you have, for example, 100 kilowatt hour car, and you only use maybe 20 or 40 for daily commute. And only if you go long distance, you fill up the rest of the space with batteries. And after you finish your long commute or your extra task, then you hand them back. So it's a very efficient use. And you only rent them. That means you don't buy them. We had different business models where you could buy or rent batteries for electric vehicles. And about 90%, if the people have the chance and the option, 90% usually rent the batteries if they can, and only 10% buy it. It was the example with the Smart when you had the possibility. It was the same thing with other electric vehicles, so that's quite popular. Why? Because you don't have to pay the whole amount, and it's quite interesting if you have electric vehicles. They are up to 200% more expensive than the normal vehicles, so maybe at average 30%, but up to 200. And when you sell them without batteries, then they get at the same level, same price for like the entry-level gasoline cars or diesel cars. And then you only rent the battery amount you need. So that's what we think is quite important to help to offset the high storage cost, and also to make it quicker to also important, make it quicker to charge. So the batteries are not necessarily used, and you swap the batteries. And I see it especially in the future when you have autonomous driving at night. You're sleeping. You don't want to get out of the car if you go high speed every 1 or 2 hours and charge and freeze outside, but you want to sleep in your car, continue to sleep and continue to drive. So I think in the future it will be even more important from this point of view. And we have the two pillars of energy transition is wind and solar, and then you have batteries in the middle who balance that. And if you have all the batteries in swapping stations, or most of the battery in swapping stations, it's easier to balance the grid than if you have high power charging, which is debalancing the grid. At the moment it's okay, but in the future it will become a big problem.
Okay. Something that you mentioned there about charging stations. What are the necessary conditions for this business model to be successful? I picked out on certain aspects on the modules themselves, IoT,
yes.
The fact that it's affordable for people to actually get vehicles.
I think the most important bit is the entrepreneur who brings this model to the market. Yes. If you don't have that, you have a problem, because normally you had in Europe, you had Better Place who failed and lost 500 million because they wanted to own the batteries, and batteries were quite expensive at this time, and they were not modularized. However, if you look at NIO, which is now coming to the market in Germany with swapping stations, and if you see in China, there are about 5 different, I would say maybe three different manufacturers offering battery swapping, 3 different standards, sorry. Mm-hmm. And I tell you now the success rate. If you Google Gogoro, which is doing swapping for e-scooters, so Vespa-like scooters, in Taiwan, they in their standard have 90% market share of the electric vehicles, of the electric two-wheelers, 90% market share. That means that if you are, as a car manufacturer, not looking at the topic of swapping, you might lose out in the future.
Okay. So I'm just trying to summarize your value proposition. Could we say charging by swapping batteries is faster than supercharging?
Yes, about 10 to 20 times faster, yeah.
10 to 20 times faster.
So with our system, so it's less than 10 minutes, and less than 1 minute compared to 30 to 60 minutes. So 20 minutes, some people say, but it's rarely. But I'm saying, let's say 20 to 60 minutes, which you need for full charge. It's normally 20 minutes to 30 minutes for 80%, which most people do because it's the quickest way, and then the rest, the last 20%, take you as long as the first 80%, which is due to the battery is getting fuller and fuller, and you can't charge that fast anymore.
Okay. Right. Understood. Let's, in that case, go further into this topic of electrical vehicles and the relevance to you, or should I say your relevance to the sector. Judging from your website, it looks like you really focus on making technology that enables a system of swappable batteries rather than commercializing them as a business yourself. Are you trying to shift practices to something more circular across the globe?
Yeah, for us, the most important question is across the globe. Well, let's start in Germany and Europe, which is important, but the most important question is for a car manufacturer. Or I got a problem now. I lost the question. Sorry.
That's fine. The question is just: are you trying to make the way things work right now?
Okay, yes, I got it now. Yes, yeah. Sorry. So we think from learning from Better Place that the car manufacturers didn't like that Better Place wanted to own the batteries themselves and wanted to rent them out. That this was not accepted, and they all said, in Germany at least, they all said we will not go with that. And so for Germany, it's quite important, and Europe, we will have a lot of people being made redundant because of not producing any engines anymore or engine parts. And so the unions will be, which are very strong in Europe, will put pressure on the car manufacturers to insource battery cell production, battery module production, and I think also in the future swapping station or charging station production, because it creates jobs. And I think it's not too bad, because the unions are doing quite a good job in pushing the management normally towards electrification, which is good. So we couldn't compete, so there's no option. They would like to license this and produce it themselves. So we focused on licensing very early. And in China, for example, in Asia, but especially in China, you have labor costs, you can't compete as well. So licensing in the long term, when you get really for larger manufacturers, OEMs, makes more sense than producing themselves. However, when you start a company, especially we have now one startup, LOI, we are discussing with 2 other small vehicle producer and startups, or small vehicle volume and startups to get in. I think they also said they like the idea that they don't have to develop the battery themselves, then they can use it, and they can use the standard, they can use the swapping standard. So it's different needs in the market, and I think in the beginning it will be more interest in buying or renting the product.
Okay.
And in the future, we think that licensing will be more important, and there are successful business models for licensing in the market. So that's what our assumption is. However, the most important bit is, as a startup, of course, being flexible.
Being flexible. That is true. Being able to adapt to the real needs of the market and what's going on, particularly the changes. Right. If we look at your website, it makes the following statement: up to 50% less cost per kilowatt hour. What is the matter behind this promise? I think you've spoken about it. But...
Yes, yeah. So the most important bit, of course, is that you have the flexibility, that you don't need to charge high power. When you start, most people like to charge with the highest power available, because they think the quicker the better. However, the batteries break down quicker. That means they don't have that long life as if you charge, for example, at half 0.5 C. So C is the rate of the battery. When you charge it at low level, it will last much longer, which you can do when it's in swapping stations. And if you high power charges, so this is one thing. The other cost reasons are, especially in winter, you lose a lot of energy when you charge at high power, and like up to 20% you lose due to winter, and you lose another 20% due to high power, which then will be will go into the air as heat. And so you have a couple of factors that makes the savings, which makes the whole business model more attractive.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question that's going to challenge you a bit here. Since it's electrical vehicles and they need to get charged, and you need to have a grid that charges, a wide scale grid that charges vehicles quickly, isn't the option of battery swapping making things worse?
So the grid is, we calculated when we were at Shell some time ago, we calculated the largest gasoline station in Germany, which is Irschenberg from Shell, and calculated how would it look like if we do high power charging. Yes, and we came up with, I think it was 40 football fields, because it takes so long, the charging takes so long compared to gasoline filling, and so it was quite impressive. And we said it was for lines of high power, and so it really it's not only taking time but destabilizing the grid. And I think it's important to see that if you only have a low volume like Tesla at the moment, and some other brands who do high power charging, that's no problem. But in the future it will become worse, where the more people are doing that, and then also doing it at the same time, because a lot of time like holiday or so you get really problems. And with our system, we think the advantage is that you book your journey before you start. So it should also de-stress the roads, because then people know that too many cars are on the road when you want to book it, and then you go look for alternatives. So it should also be a good tool against traffic congestion.
Okay. We have a question from the audience that I think could be interesting to ask you now. It's, why not hydrogen vehicles as they are testing in Switzerland trucks? Let me reword the question. So the question is, why not hydrogen vehicles as they are testing in Switzerland trucks? The business model is per cost per mile traveled. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I think so. Elon Musk says we have no time for that. No, but I would say more elaborate. Hydrogen has the problem that you lose about 2/3 of the energy going into your engine. So from energy production to conversion to hydrogen, and then convert it back, you lose 2/3 of the energy. And that means that you have to pay 3 times more electricity. It makes sense if we have in the future, maybe after 2040, we generate hydrogen from surplus energy. I say maybe, yes, but not before, because at the moment we still have to produce it from coal and gas, and we import it now from April onwards. We import it from France, the nuclear energy, and so it will not be really green, but we don't have enough green energy yet. And this is why we think 2040, after that, maybe. And if you take hydrogen from Saudi Arabia and ship it over with diesel tankers, and then feed it in here, it makes even less sense. So the major problem of hydrogen is the cost, really. And if you look at trucks, it's even more, the costs are even more important, because trucks are more price sensitive. If you can offer a truck hauler to save 2 or 3% in margin, and this is their profit margin then, yes, and so they are going for it. So if you have a product which costs you 2 or 3 times more, I put my question mark on it, and I see for trucks long distance, we already have this in Germany. For example, between Frankfurt and Darmstadt, we have overhead lines for the trucks. And this is very efficient because you don't have storage costs. It's produced by Siemens, which invented the electric train, so they know how to do it. And I haven't seen any accidents so far, so it seems to be quite okay. It's good also for bad weather. You have also other competing technology where the electricity is in the road, but when you have ice and snow or heavy rain, forget it. So I think overhead lines for trucks will be the future for long distance. And then in the city, batteries. And I can see hydrogen, because of the cost, as a niche player, yes. But before 2040, I think there's no real chance. When we hopefully are producing a lot of surplus green energy, there's no real chance from cost-wise that there's a chance. And you see it also from all truck manufacturers who are the market leading, maybe Daimler-Benz, Mercedes-Benz. They say we focus on electric trucks.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that question, Sonia, and thank you for the answer. I hope that was satisfactory. But there is another question. It's a long question, and this is asked by a person called Jose, or Jose. Excuse me if I didn't pronounce it correctly. The question is, beyond lithium-based batteries, there are recent technological breakthroughs such as sodium batteries, which potentially will constitute a significant, more affordable means for energy storage. Any comments on that? And also, sand batteries, due to the high capacity of holding heat, seems to be a proposition with potential for energy storage.
Yes. So I think you have to keep in mind is not only how cheap it is, but also what the energy density is. And I think there's a lot of space and room for storage, stationary storage, where the weight of a battery and the size of a battery doesn't make is no obstacle. However, for cars, you really need very efficient high-density batteries. And I give you an example: the current batteries which are in the market, which are standard, are 250 watt-hours per kilogram. You have top of the notch, you have 300, you have maybe even a bit more for solid state. But I worry about solid states because they are quite, quite dangerous. It's hard to handle. And I've seen too many buses burning with solid states. But you have, on the other hand, you have lithium iron phosphate, which is about 160 kilowatt per kilogram. Watt hours per kilogram, yes. And then you have, on the other hand, you have other technology which is much, much lower, yes. So you always have to keep that in mind. So I think for stationary storage, the word is the oyster. And don't forget, heat is one of the best, or heating water is one of the most efficient energy storage you can have, because you don't pay the cost per stored kilowatt hour is zero, yes. Because if you store it, there's no wear and tear of that, yes. So, and this is also an interesting point which you should look at. But I think, yes, for stationary storage, yes. For mobile storage, I have my questions, because usually they are below 100 watt hours per kilogram, and that's too low for a vehicle, because we already, when we go below 70% of the capacity of a battery over wear and tear over the life, usually you take them out at 70%, because the range is so much decreased that the people want to have a new battery. So just giving you a hint why I think yes for stationary, but very doubtful for mobile batteries.
Okay, thank you for that. There's a party going on in the chat box, in the question box. So we're going to go back to the topic, and then at the Q&A, you have a lot of questions waiting for you. So let's get ready. Let's talk a bit more about Clean Energy Global success. Tell us more about your products and pilots that you've done.
Yes. So success is always something which is, you can say, is relative. And of course, whenever you have achieved something, you want to go for the next. And so for us, I think we are very proud of having this Clean Energy Link IoT module, which you can link to the cloud and to apps, which we have shown before. And we have started with some small, maybe you know that Raspberry Pis, which are good to start and develop, but they consume too much energy for a battery, because especially a mobile battery, because you want to consume as little energy as possible. And so we are quite, then we when we then got an order from a major European OEM group to develop an IoT module for or adapt the IoT module for their second life batteries, which can be used mobile. So two modules together for one application, which you can use for camping or something like this. Then we said a leap of faith. We use this as well now to do our own integrated circuit board, printed circuit board, PCB, with a technology which is unique because it closes LTMM, which is 4G for machine. And so you always know where your assets are and you can track them. And that's quite it's our first achievement, because now it's a product in the market which has been sold, and we are now discussing with more companies to make their batteries smart. So we think that's a success we are proud of. And now, of course, we are looking forward to use that in our clean energy pack mono, which is the small one, 13 kilo, which you have two handles for the small vehicles, which you use for small vehicles like the, for example, Renault Twizy. We have converted one. And then as a next step, the bigger one, the Clean Energy Pack Standard we call, which you can goes from 48 volts to 800 volts. So it's also okay for Porsche and Audi to use. But however, to convince these car companies, we don't think it will be so easy in the beginning. So we will start with kits to you go to the garage and say you want to have your ICE vehicle converted. And so they do the job for you, and then you have a clean vehicle and without spending the whole money, and you can rent the batteries. So that's the thing. So we're looking forward. The biggest success has yet to become, of course.
Yet to come. That is true indeed. Well, congratulations. Are there any customers that you're allowed to name that you can share?
Not really. We have signed all the NDAs, and I'm just thinking of no. We have signed all NDAs, but we're looking forward to present that. We will see it hopefully Q4 this year or Q1 next year. You see the first light vehicle in the European market using our technology, and that's really attractive because the customer doesn't need to pay for the batteries anymore when he buys it. He only rents a minimum of 5 kilowatt hours, for example, which is 2 small batteries. And then when he goes long distance, he can fill all the other 20 up with the batteries, and then he returns them afterwards. For example, going into the country on the weekend. That's quite efficient way to use your vehicle, or if we go long distance. So unfortunately not, but our IoT module you can buy now. We have our DigiKey. You can buy that as a developer kit. We don't want to have everybody to buy it. Of course, you can buy it for 8,000 euros, and you get 20 hours included for your stupid battery to make it smart. So you read in the CAN data and you transfer it until you can make a pilot project very simply. And that's maybe the first product where we can talk about. And I think it is live since yesterday night or something like this. So it's quite a first step where we can talk about this. And we have also for energy utilities, we have a white label, so it's all white label. So we see ourselves as third parties, first tier supplier for the automotive industry, or white label producer for the energy industry. Is if you are interested and don't have lithium iron phosphate batteries 5 or 10 kilowatt hours, and you can extend the 5 kilowatt hours to 75. you can talk with us, and we are happy to design your solution according to your need. And but that's the things we can talk about. Unfortunately, customers we can't, but you will find out hopefully end of next year, within the next 12 months. Yeah.
Okay, you heard it. Q4 this year or Q1 of next year. Watch the space. In that case, final question before we move on to the Q&A, and there are lots of questions for you, especially regarding batteries and your ecosystem. But anyways, final question. Moving forward, as a business, what are you looking for now?
So we are in the stage that we are have made 4 prototypes of our clean energy pack, and we have the largest battery confectionery in Europe and in Germany and Europe, which would help us with the industrialization of our pack. So we are looking for the small pack and the big pack. Industrialization costs of 2.5 each. So we are looking for a Series A round of 5 million. At the moment for 20%, 25% of the equity, which is post money. So after investment, it's a valuation of the company of 20 million, which is ridiculous cheap. If you look at Ample, our competitor in the United States, which can swap, but he swaps in 10 minutes, and the batteries are double the height as we have. So I think, and they are unicorn status, and so I think we are that cheap.
Yeah. Okay, that is very clear, and we wish you all the best for that. Let's move into the Q&A session. Again, if you have questions, there is a panel on the right of your screen. You just have to enter questions in the question box, and I will read them out. First question is from Marwan, who is asking, any challenges in optimizing the routes to the swap stations? How do you see this challenge going forward?
Okay, swapping stations, yes. Swapping station, very important, is a city-by-city approach. So if you look at the success also of GoGo, which shows it quite nicely. So you start with one city. Our city where we would like to start is Stuttgart, to put some pressure on Mercedes and Porsche as well, when they see the old vehicles being refurbished and they swap in 1 minute, and you buy a complete new vehicle for 100,000 euros or 200,000 euros, and you wait, or especially battery vehicle, and you wait for half an hour, 1 hour, you put some pressure on your manufacturer to say, we want to have the same. I'm very happy, like I talked to Tesla customers, I'm very happy with Tesla, but I would like to have this little extra add-on to swap within less than 1 minute. And so that's for us. We will start in Stuttgart, and then we can't tell you the second city because then you wouldn't know our client. But the third city will be Berlin. And so you start with you sell the vehicles which are swappable only in these cities, and then you establish a network. Then you use machine learning or also intelligence, of course, to show to say where you want to have your boxes for the small batteries, look like a deep freezer, and you put by hand your small batteries in. All the swapping stations will also be the big swapping station, which you can see on our website. Is a simulation in swapping in less than 1 minute. Is that you have them also in Stuttgart, in Munich, then with BMW, putting some pressure on BMW, and then having the A8 between Stuttgart and Munich with some swapping stations. And it's the same thing like NIO. They have, I think the first swapping station they did is the A8. It's quite, NIO is this Chinese producer who has now establishing swapping stations for, we call it generation 3, for big batteries, which are not so efficient because you have to store big batteries. So the costs are 30 to 50% higher because you have to store batteries as well. Whereas our technology is 50% up to 50% cheaper because you have only small volumes. So this is the rollout. So this is, in a nutshell, you have to have a city-by-city approach and then learn from the demand, and people book. And so you got also some information from that, and then you see then a pattern where you can anticipate where the demand will be, and you can also ask your customers where do they want to have the next swapping station. It's like in the Q&A here, and they can decide and say, and then you see from the from the most votes of your customers where the next swapping station should be.
It's all about being agile and growing bit by bit until you have a big grid-like structure in the end. Speaking on about that grid-like structure, we visited this question earlier on, but I just want to come back to it because it's been asked in the Q&A. Quick swap battery is good for the consumer. These batteries still need charging, so will be no less of a burden on the grid. Or am I missing something?
Yes, that's it's less burden on the grid because you can charge very slowly, and you don't have to charge quickly because you always have a certain capacity of batteries in the swapping station. And when there is bad weather, for example, or at night, you have enough from the day, you have enough energy. And of course, the most important thing we need in Germany, and the whole energy transition also needs, is to have dynamic pricing, that you have a new price point every 15 minutes. And you have also some assumptions when prices will be low or high. So I suppose because of solar, you will have very cheap prices at around midday to drive your car, and when it's because of wind, when it's a heavy storm, then you have very cheap energy prices, and this will cause the people to use their car at times when, especially price sensitive people, at times when there's enough energy.
Okay, interesting. You're also influencing how people move around town. There's a comment as well. I'm just gonna take it out. Please comment on lithium LIS batteries for electrical vehicles.
Is it sulfur?
Lithium sulfur.
Yeah, sulfur. So sulfur was a big thing 3 years ago, and 3 to 5 years ago. And however, there was a problem. It looked quite promising. However, there was a problem with cycle stability. That means that you get high cycles of your product. And I tell you, just to give you an idea, is the normal batteries you use in cars, which are manganese cobalt, they have say around 1,000 cycles. Yes, if they manage it it's 2,000 cycles, which is enough for 500,000 kilometers for one battery pack. However, if you want to have higher cycles, you have something like lithium iron phosphate. You have 8,000 cycles, but it's heavier. Then you have lithium titanate, which is 20,000 cycles. And there are some applications, for example, for heavy trucks and buses where it makes sense, or maybe tractors in the future, but you always have to see where it makes sense. And as far as I can say, this was a problem. Industrialization was a problem for this product, and it doesn't seem to survive. And with our case, we are not into designing new cell chemistry. We use normal batteries which are available in the market, try to test it, and include them in our battery pack. Focus is the 2700 cell, so it's 2 centimeter in diameter and 7 centimeters high. And so the cylindrical cells is our focus, but it's this is just the size. But that's my answer for sulfur.
Okay. So for the time being, there's no future with lithium sulfur, at least for Clean Energy Global.
Not available in the market, no.
Okay, that's clear. All right. We have established that you're within the electrical vehicle market and e-mobility. Are there other markets where your solution could be applied?
Yes, we have boats. We have boats as well. I'm not sure our form factor, but if you maybe apart from the stationary market, where we would go wouldn't go with our own products, but we would make the product smart with our IoT module and our cloud, energy cloud. However, we think that ships are quite interesting. And if you see that the ship fleet of the biggest container ships in the world is worse than the automotive, or the 20 biggest ships is worse than the whole automotive car park, I think that's an interesting piece to tackle. Of course, the cost would be higher, it might be slower, and they have to charge more often. But it depends what you want. But I can tell you, it really is not very nice if you have a ship nearby and you smoke this, you inhale this, what comes out of the ships. It's you feel really sick.
It's not at all nice, but oh well. I think that's it for the questions. I'll give you, the audience, an extra few seconds in case you have questions, because if not, I'll close the Q&A and we can conclude the webinar. Any more questions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Okay. In any case, since we've spoken about the shipping industry, just to let you know, the audience is on the 23rd and 24th of March of this year in Monaco. There will be an event called Smart Yacht, and it's an event that invites innovative companies like Clean Energy Global, but also companies like yours. I'm sure that some of you work in certain technologies. I invite you to go onto Boomoffer's website and to type and to look for the innovation ecosystem tab, which will give you more information about Smart Yacht taking place this year. And it's also a link that we can share in the chat a bit later. What I'm going to do now is ask you what topics that we discussed today most caught your interest. So here is the final poll that I will share with you as of now. Is it energy storage, electrical vehicles, swappable batteries, or 50% less cost per kilowatt hour? Okay, answers are coming in, and it's looking really interesting. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to answer the poll. But it looks like we have a tie. Okay, I'm closing the poll in 5 seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Let's take a look. Okay. The results say, give us a tie, that the topics of most caught your interest were energy storage and swappable batteries, which obviously, Philipp, that is what you do. And I will share your email address with them in a bit so that they can get in contact with you and learn more about swappable batteries, how it works, and energy storage. In the meantime, I invite you all to go into the chat box to learn more about this Monaco Smart Yacht event that's happening in March. It's an opportunity to meet with customers, strategic and financial partners to build collaboration in the transition of the yachting industry. A use case that Clean Energy Global is part of, as you were at a similar event in Monaco last year that was more focused on the marina. Let's end the webinar now. To get in touch with Philipp Rosengarten is by email, which is on the screen, philip@cleanengglobal.com with hyphens in the middle. Do you have anything to say about how they should write to you, Philipp?
Oh, no, I'm quite happy to whatever you prefer. So we are located in Berlin, and have an office also in south of France, in Sophia Antipolis, and to make the marinas of the Mediterranean greener. And and I'm always happy to take a Zoom call.
Okay, fantastic. Then let's move on. I also want to let you all know that the next Catch&Do session will take place on Thursday, the 9th of March at 4 p.m. Central European Time. We will invite Esmeralda Migueli from Accentio to discuss to what extent digital healthcare is becoming more mainstream within the realm of traditional healthcare. Just to let you know, Accentio won the Startup Prize at the Info Venture Summit last year, and we are delighted to have it on Thursday, the 9th of March at 4 p.m. Central European Time. That is 4 p.m. in Paris, in Berlin, in Madrid, Copenhagen, Lagos, Casablanca, and other places in the time zone. To register, I will share the link with you in the chat as well, especially if you're interested in digital health topics. This will be very good for you. And what I'm going to say, Philip, is thank you very much for being with us today. We really appreciated your time and everything you have to share with us regarding Clean Energy Global. And I hope to you, the audience, you enjoyed the session. Again, if you have any questions for Philip, you can contact him by email. And please don't hesitate to contact me, Thomas from Bmorpho, to discuss any of your needs regarding collaboration, investment, and more. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.